Hello everyone, welcome to JS Gigs and my name is Deepak. Here in this tutorial, we are going to be talking about the remaining aspect and remaining topics for Angular 18. First of which is a built-in control flow. And then we are going to be talking about redirect2 as a function and a router path. Right? So in this tutorial, I'm going to be covering the point number 3 and also point number 5. So, and for the point number 6, I'm going to be building a separate video tutorial in which I'll talk in detail about these bundle tools and everything around it. So it's something that if somebody wants to understand, why do we need a bundle tool, I'll start from the scratch and we'll try to cover the most advanced topics as well too, which is basically required to build an application from the scratch, right? So let me open the Angular documentation as well, or rather let me write it down this way. And here, so if you look at the documentation, it basically resides here inside the template syntax, right? So what is control flow? So the control flow itself suggests that the name itself suggests that control of your program execution. So how do you change the control of a program execution? You change it by giving the if else block, and also you will have to write the for block. For example, if you want to repeat a text or repeat an activity for, let's say, n number of time, you in that case do a for loop, right? So this is what a control flow is all about. And there's another thing that we use in control flow is also something like switch, which is definitely an advanced version of if. So in case of an if, you can only condition check for one condition, or you will have to write and or and or, and then you can define it. Let's say if you have a complex block, then you design a switch block, and that's something we will come to a little while later, right? So in this tutorial, we are going to be talking about firstly the if block, and also we are going to be seeing the for block, and post that we will go to the switch block, and then we will cover it, right? So let me take you back to the code editor. All right, so we are going to be basically talking about and changing the if block first. So the idea here is that we already have some if blocks available in our application, and we are going to be changing it to the new control or the new control flow, like at the rate if, instead of creating it a directive. So the idea here is that I'm going to be changing the template such that the ngif would now be replaced by at the rate if. So the idea would remain basically same. It's just that the syntax would change. So in order to do this, I'll first of all have to search for ngif. So let me just search how many places the ngif has occurred in my uh, in my in my code base. So here you see that it basically appears in 3 places. So what I'm going to do is, like, I'm going to be basically looking at the subject details, and here you'll notice it has the ngif block, right? So this is the block which we are going to be changing. So let's just start changing this. All right, so if you look closely over here, you would notice that ngif record, it checks basically for a condition, and in case the condition was not met, it was basically used to display another template over here, right? So what I'm going to do is, like, I'll write, first of all, write at the if, and then inside the if, I'm going to be putting this. So let me put the condition over there. And then I'm also going to be putting the else block. And then the else block, I'm just going to be putting this div as is over there. And let me just put this entirely, copy this and paste this here. We don't need this. All we need is this. I don't think so we need this template either. Let's just put this here. And I think I can change these ngif as well. So let me just write it down. And I'm going to be putting the condition here as well. For chemistry and for maths. So I'm going to be putting this all. And then I'm also going to be removing these ngif, because I have now replaced ngif with the if block. So let me remove this as well. and this one as well, and one over here as well, right? So essentially, I have replaced all my if ngif with if, and now I'm going to be seeing in the browser like if that functions well. So let me take you to the browser, and here in the browser, I'm going to be running this application. And then inside this, I'm going to be rendering to the dashboard. Yep, so my backend is not working at this moment. So let me just boot up my backend. Did I mention that I'm basically making use of Macoon? So let me start my Macoon server as well in the background. There you go. Right, so if I go to the home page, now I see all of these components appearing here. And let me just do the inspect and look at the console if console is clean. And let me take you to the subjects. And now what I'm going to do is like I'm going to be basically making use of so this page basically works in such a manner that when you click on each of these subjects, right, all the students pertaining to this subject who have opted for these subjects would appear below, right? So now you can see that the application is sort of working properly. And let's say if I do maths, yes, it changes it properly, and at the same time there's no error on the console, and computer also it works, and physics also it works, right? So this is the first migration what we have done with the ngif from ngif to iterative, and we have also seen the else block. So now I'm going to be basically doing the for block, which is basically right there in the same template as well. So let me take you back to the code editor, and here at the code editor, now you can see that there is an ng for block available here. So I'm going to do is like I'm going to be basically doing @for, and inside the @for I'm going to be putting in this. So I already have a Copilot license, so that is why it suggests me to do such things. So let me put this here and remove this bit completely from here. I just need to leave the class as is, and let me remove this let, and let me put a track by. Rather, track by ID. All right, so now I've saved it. And what I'm going to do is like, I'm just going to be going back to the VS Code. I'm going to be going back to the browser and show you if this works. So here in the browser, you can see that localhost, and then I'm going to be putting the dashboard. And let it load for a moment. There is no error on the console or in the running of the application there in the VS Code either. So just wait for a moment. All right. So this works well. Let me now take you to the subject details. So here, something is not right. Okay, so let me see the network and this particular API. Oh, yep. There is no ID available here per se. So track by I have given as ID. I believe that I have to give the name. So let me take you back to the code editor, and there you can see that this is an ID. Let me change it to name. Save it. And let's just go back to the browser. Let me open this in a new tab. There you go. Looks like there was something wrong with the browser window. So now let's look at the console. Yep, it appears clean, and I can see that it changes basis the subject. And if it changes, and it also lists down all the students. So now I'm going to be talking about the empty block, and for that I'll take you to the browser. And here in the browser you can see that this empty block basically displays when there is no item to be displayed in the for loop, and that's when the empty block would be executed. So in order to put this, let me take you back to the code editor, and here at the code editor, this is the for loop over here, and let me put the empty block right here. So at the rate empty, and there you go. No records to display. And I think we're pretty much good here. Let me save this down here, and let's run this in the browser. So here in the browser, I'll take you again to the local host. Yeah. And here at the list, subjects. Okay, so here you can see that it has basically, the moment I select on any of the subject, it displays all the records below it. Now let me do some code changes such that the list becomes an empty, and that's when we would see if the empty block is being executed or not, right? So here in the record, I'll put it like this. In the records, I'm going to be taking you, or rather opening the TS file. And here in the records, I'm just going to be putting in the value, and the value comes here from the input. So let me say test value. All right, so now let me take you to the browser, and there you go. So let me select chemistry, math, computers, and physics. All of it appears as no records found, right? I can increase, decrease, all of that is fine. Let me see if there is any console error at the same time. So I believe there should be none. Yeah, the console looks clean. So this bit is done as well. Right, so now let me take you to the next part of the same chapter, which is a switch block, right? So switch is pretty much is something which is very much similar to the switch of the TypeScript or in other languages that you use. So essentially what happens is, let's say if you have multiple conditions to be matched. So in case of a switch, you define a switch block, and in case of case, you define each condition in those cases, and then you define the block of code that needs to run when you when those particular cases are successful, like the way it is shown on your screen right now, the one way I'm highlighting, right? So now what I'm going to do is, like, I'll just try to put this here in the same template that we have, and then let's see if this works. So code editor, let me change it back to records, and here also I'll just remove this because I don't need that. Records is fine, so this looks good. Now let me put a switch over here, or let's say we will put another condition. So let's say if so the switch block is something that we don't have a condition to put in here. Okay, so switch block cannot fit here. So what I'm going to do is, like, I'll just take the switch elsewhere and we'll try to give you a gist of it, right? So here, if you look at the record length, so what I'm going to do is, like, this is basically just to show you how it works. But then after I show you how it works, I'm going to be removing it because essentially it has no purpose on my template at this moment, right? So this condition doesn't really fit well, right? So but let me write it down this way, switch, and then I'm going to be saying, let's say, test switch test text, and then I'm going to be putting in the condition, and those conditions are like, let's say, and I'm going to be putting this as okay. So we'll see if test switch text is computers, then I'm going to be displaying this block, and then let me just repeat the same for remaining other blocks, which is basically physics, maths, and chemistry. So there are three such. So I'll make it physics, maths, chemistry, right? And what I'm going to do is, like, I'm going to be assigning the value here. So let me read this value from test switch, and let's make this computers first. And if, yep, So now let me take you back to the browser, and then on the browser, I'll run this. So let's say this one, computer record found, right? And then let me change this to, let's say, something else. So this time around, I'm going to be changing it to physics. And again, go back to the browser to test it. So here in the browser, let me select maths, and there you go, physics record found. So there, exactly what this is not an exact use case of switch loop, but then we wanted to just show you how exactly switch works, and that's the reason why I have given you that. But essentially, this switch has to be written separately in case of a switches. In case if you wish to do a switch, like it's a normal programming use case. So wherever it really fits, you need to use it. But this time around, we don't really need it. It's just that I just wanted to show you, and that's why I've shown you like this, right? So now this is pretty much done. Now we have covered this aspect also. So let me take you back to the browser, and let's see that how many other things we have done. So we have covered the built-in control flow, right? And now I'm going to be talking about redirect to as a function in a router path. So let me just put this also in green color. And how do I do this is by clicking here and here, right? So this is the one which we are going to be working on right now. So let me come here, right? So this bit is done, and student details. Let me go back to the home page and also take you back to the code editor. So here the code editor, we are going to be changing this aspect, right? So let me close down everything, right? Now I'm going to be talking about, or let's say I just need to commit this. So what I do is like I'll say control flow Angular 18 and do the commit and do a sync change and click OK. Now I'm going to be opening the app route file. So here the app route file. Here the app route file, I am going to be, or rather the other file, which is also the dashboard route file. So let me open that as well. So here's the one, right? So we haven't really made use of a redirect to function per se or redirect to property here in our module, but then let's just try to do that, right? So what I'm going to do is like I'm just going to be designing a not found page, right? So let's say if let me open the route page, right? So here in the route page, let's say if we have a route that doesn't match to anything, so what would we do? Like we'll just quickly write it down such that we redirect it to, let's say, a test page or 404 page, right? So let me design that page. So not found, and here in case of a load children, I don't really need this as a load children. What I really need is a component, and that component is something that I'm going to be designing now. So let me put this here, right? And let me open the terminal, and now I'm going to be designing another component, which is basically a not found component, right? So I'm going to be putting this here. So let me copy the path and reach there, clear, and do this ng generate component not found. So I've created a component which is a not found component, and let's just open the not found component here, which is placed here. So let me write down the message, which is no route found. Let me save this, and also student details not found. Or let me do this, right? So I'm going to be putting this in the app route. So let's just do it this way. Import, and here what I'm going to do is like in case if it is not found, I'm going to be redirecting this to redirect to not found, right? So we will also come to this point where we will also use a function in case of a redirect to property, but before that I want to take you back to the browser and test this feature if this works or not, right? So here is this, and let's say, yep. So the not found works, but then let's say if I do it this way, it says the URL segment is not available. So I'll take you back to the code editor, and here is the code editor. So the problem that is, I've made a single star, so it's not really a single star flag here. So we need to give 2 star in order to match that. So I'll take you back to the browser, and there at the browser, there you go. So now let's say if I route anything which is not available, it will take me to the no route found. Right. So now I'm going to be talking about the function which can be used with the redirect to property. All right. So redirect to is something that we are going to be changing now. So there are two type of things. Redirect to also can hold a function now. Right. So what we are going to do is, like, so far we have only given a string. So what happens is that just in case if the path doesn't match when user types in something in the browser, so in that case it will redirect it to not found. And what we're going to do is right now is like we are going to be giving a function over here, which is a new property in Angular 18, in which you can basically design in such a way that you can determine it. You can also write a lengthy logic. So for in our case, what we're going to do is, like, let's say if the route is of a string, then that's when we are going to be navigating it to not found. And in case if the route is a number, in such case we are not going to be doing anything and then just letting this go, right? So let's just write this logic right here, and then we'll go forward. All right, so what we're going to do is, like, just in case if somebody types in something in the browser, and if it does not really match in any of the matching in the top, it will redirect it to not found. All that while we have learned about the redirect to property, which is always treated as a string, but now redirect to property also has a function, right? And that function you can write, and then you can actually write complex logics around it, and those complex logic you can actually determine where the route should go from this redirect to function method. All right. So what will happen, like, before I go further and try to explain you what it is all about, let's just see that what the redirect to function is all about and how it is received. So let's just say that I'm basically receiving a data when this particular function would be called, and let me just try to log this here on my console, and let's try to read what it is all about, right? So now what will happen? So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to be writing a URL which does not exist in my application, because of which it will come here at path star star, which is at line number 19. Method would be called the redirect to, and in that method I'm going to be seeing that what URL is object is all about, right? So let's just quickly go to the browser and I'll show you what it is, right? So here I am routing to dashboard lending. So let me just write down dashboard test, in which case it will take me to the no not found route. And here is the object. Now, if you look closely over here, you would notice that it has data, right? And then it also has params, it also has query params, and it has route config, and it also has URL. So within the URL, if you look, if you remember, so we had basically type /dashboard/test. So that is why it has created two segments. The first one was dashboard, the other one was test. So the logic which we are trying to build in this application is that, let's say if there was a route which does not exist under dashboard, but then the user has mistakenly typed. So in that case, we must redirect user to dashboard lending. And let's say if the dashboard and if there is any other segment in it, let's say if the URL segment path was other than dashboard at the 0th position, and then in that case we will make it land on no not found route, right? So let me put it back again, and then this, and let's just do this once again. You see the same object appears. Now let me take you back to the code editor, and let's just put this logic right here. So what I'm going to do next is that I'm going to be basically checking a condition, and that condition would be, let's say, URL, or let me do it this way. I'm going to be receiving an object URL, and then within that URL I have a property called, this is a URL which is also basically an array. So at URL 0th position, I'm going to be reading the path, and let's say if this path is dashboard, let's just redirect to dashboard lending. And let's say if this was not the case, then we will redirect it to not found, right? And let's just try to go. Now I'll take you back to the browser and we'll try to see if this works. So let's just save this, and Let me just save this bit and let me take you back to the browser. So here is the browser. So not found route, and let's say dashboard / test. So now you can notice that it is taking me to the landing page. And let's say if I do not write dashboard, and if let's say I type test alone, it'll take me to not found route, right? So this logic must be clear to you all. So let me take you back to the documentation, and that's exactly what it describes, that what you really need to do in case of the redirect2 function. So please understand that I'm not really explaining all the features here of Angular 18. And in case if you want to know more about Angular versions and routing and other stuff, then I have a very lengthy tutorial available on my YouTube channel. That's something that you can go to, and let's say let me open this bit. So here is the YouTube channel of mine, JS Gigs, and then there you can basically find the playlist where you have tutorial available for Angular. So here is the Angular tutorial. You can go through this particular video tutorial, which was first loaded on my channel 4 months ago. So you just go through it and you would understand all the aspect of Angular precisely. And then you still have a question, please do write it in the comment section below. I'll be more than happy to create those. So now let me take you back to the browser, and here in the browser we have also covered this particular bit. So let me just mark this as green as well. So this is a green, and we are done. So now what's remaining is that it's basically the event replay, and for which I want to create a separate video tutorial. The next would be the newer build system change from ng 17. Let us see what it has for developers. So here is the build system, new build system, the Vite, and then that's something which we will see probably in the next tutorial. So for now, I guess I'm pretty much done. I'll quickly give you a recap of what we have understood in this tutorial. So we have spoken about the built-in control flow. We changed the if statement. We also learned about the @switch statement. We also saw how ng4 has changed to @for, and that's something which we had also seen in the template. So, and in the end, we also saw if the redirect2 function is now available in Angular 18. Earlier, it used to be a property, right? Just a string property. So let me again take you back to the code editor. And here in the code editor, what I'm going to do is, like, all the files which I've changed in this particular tutorial, I'm just going to be saving them with the detail as the built-in control flow and redirect2 message, redirect2 function change. Implemented for, because previously I had used star ngif and star for ng4, but now I've used @for and @ng, @if, and also we had seen the empty blocks and other things related to it. So built-in control flow implemented, and then the next thing we saw was the redirect2 function. So let's just put this and do a sync, and that's it. So the application, please understand that the branch which I'm using for this particular purpose is Angular 18 upgrade. So you can very well go back to my channel, and you can also look at the GitHub link that I'll provide in this description. You please click on it and go there, and you can you're most welcome to check out this particular repository. And currently I'm working on Angular 18 upgrade. Once this bit is done, I'm going to be merging this back to the main branch. So let me just quickly take you to the GitHub once again, ladies and gentlemen. So let me open my GitHub. So that's my GitHub, and there you see the student tab. So this student tab, I've been committing my changes here. You are most welcome to check this out. And the branch which I'm working on currently is the Angular 18 upgrade, right? So with that, I would want to finish this tutorial, and I'll see you in the next one, wherein I'll explain the remaining bit about Angular 18. So for now, I think that's pretty much it. And thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for listening in. And if you are liking my work, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also hit the bell icon in case if I post a new video, you would be notified. So thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you in the next one.